Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are continuing a conversation we're having with Sarah Tracy, who is going to start talking to us a bit about one of the courses she's teaching at our Qualitative Research Summer Intensive that we've been lucky enough to have her teach several times over the years. The title is Writing for Impact: Strategies to Successfully Craft and Publish Qualitative Research. So tell us the title, Sarah, about how you came to that title. The course, by the way, for people is offered August 5th and 6th. So yeah, tell us about the moving toward that title.
Yeah, we oftentimes think about writing as this chore that we do at the end of our project. And I wanted the title, and it starts with Writing for Impact, to highlight, why are we writing to begin with? What is the point? And our point is that we want all of our qualitative work, and let's face it, doing good qualitative research is not easy. So why is it that we're doing all of this? We're trying to impact our core audiences. We're trying to perhaps make a change, to invite reflection, to offer a space for justice, transformation, information transfer. So I wanted to highlight the why behind the writing. Like, why are we doing this? It's for impact. And it's also not just about getting it published, which is important if we want our key audiences to hear it, but it's the craft along the way. And like any practice, there is a craft in writing that, when cultivated, is not only onerous, but brings some joy and adventure and learning along the way.
I love you use the term cultivated too, because people can relax a bit and know that, you continue to grow and evolve your personality as a writer, your style as a writer, and your effectiveness impact. It's like, some of us who've written a ton still are, expanding as we go. And Paul, this is something you and I have talked about. There was so let me cut to you, because I know there's a couple of issues you're thinking in this regard about the evolution and all that.
Sure. So Sarah, I'm wondering, in the years that you have presented this topic, what have you learned about teaching?
Yeah, so I've taught writing qualitative research for y'all several times, and I think the reason that you keep asking me to do it and people keep coming back is that they really do need some assistance along the way in order to create that strong qualitative research report or presentation. Most qualitative researchers have very little struggle in knowing that they have good data. People come to this course, though, with all of this good juicy stories and field work and ideas and interview transcripts and so on. But then it's figuring out how to put that together coherently in a way where their key audience is going to sit up, take notice, and where publishers are going to want to create a platform for them to share this story. And so this workshop really helps people move from this idea of, oh, I have this interesting descriptive story, to I have a contribution for this specific audience in a way that is going to help them in X, Y, Z ways.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, 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 Jeff.
Yeah, following up on that, we often hear the saying qualitative researchers are storytellers. So what makes qualitative writing different from other types of writing, other types of storytelling?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would say that in qualitative research, writing is not just an outcome, or said another way, it's not just the destination. Writing is the journey. Writing is part of the process of qualitative research. And so it's not as though, as a qualitative researcher, you simply write up your findings at the end of your study. I mean, that's silly. It's like saying that a sculptor just sculpts up at the end. No, so in sculpting, you are creating. And in the same way as a qualitative researcher, through writing, we create, we also can know in different ways. And so writing, first of all, is part of the entire process. So that's one way that writing is different for qualitative research. The other thing I would say is that writing and qualitative research, it is this iterative approach where we are taking evidence and blending it in with theory and blending it in with imagery, with argument. It's not simply reporting what's there. And so as a researcher, as a human being, you end up in that writing as well. And that can be really joyful, but people oftentimes feel like they need permission to do that. And in this workshop, we talk about how that works.
Yeah, and it's interesting too to think more about that is, you talk about writing as a journey and needing permission. When you work with writers, some of these folks in the class will be new and they've never written, and the thought about like, uh-oh, I got to put this report together or write this dissertation. So when you set out thinking about the course, it's not just the content and how to write. What's in the course design that reflects more than just, okay, I'm typing and writing? You really think holistically about the person. So how do you address those kinds of things about recognizing the holistic experience for scholars and what you bring to them to help them feel smoother and more comfortable with that themselves?
Well, I have a series of different exercises I
Yeah.
use in the workshop, and they are short, but they leave people with confidence. And one example of such an exercise is thinking back to your favorite crayon, in the crayon box when you were young. And the one that was all like torn and ripped and all rubbed down. And then identifying that and then thinking about what role does that crayon play in your life right now. And just writing for like, 2-3 minutes on that. And from that exercise, people are able to understand like, oh my gosh, through writing, I have now discovered something about myself that I didn't know before writing. And so that kind of exercise and others along the writing process, my hope is, and from what I've heard from former participants, is it provides them with these little bursts of evidence and confidence that through writing, they will be able to come out with something on the other side. They don't have to have it all figured out first. Through the writing, they can know.
Yeah. If you look at our background, by the way, a little personal revelation, you can get a feel for what crayon mine was. But
Yeah.
in closing, Sarah, one of the things that you help journey folks through, and people probably are assuming this about you, but one of the things you've done is a lot of advising and a lot of one-on-one, all these kinds of things. You've seen groups of people through. If you can think of, is there one challenge in particular that qualitative writers have confronted that you hope listening to you, learning with others in your course eases the experience with this challenge? And I'm purposely not saying eliminating, because some of you do need to go through.
Yeah.
It's kind of a one kind of strong challenge that you're hoping people think differently about after their experience with you.
Yeah. I think that an important challenge that people have with writing is understanding that revision is writing. And whenever we do research, we are going to, and whenever we put ourselves out there, especially in terms of attempting to publish or even like sharing a report with a supervisor or with a dissertation chair, etc., we are going to get feedback. And it's in this workshop, we're going to talk about how to manage that feedback and be able to incorporate it and realize that critique and feedback is not a roadblock, but it is a space for thinking, how to respond to that feedback, and how to move forward from it. And often, as qualitative writers, writing is the most solitary time of qualitative research. And putting yourself in a community of like-minded others with other folks who are dealing with the challenges of writing and the challenges of getting critique and moving toward, there's that famous reviewer too, and how you manage that person, you're going to see that you're not alone. And I'll share my own. Oh my gosh, I have revised stories from my past. And, all of anybody who's a successful writer also has had to move through that. So that's something that I would say that can be really helpful in this workshop.
And to come back to something we were talking about earlier, is that really shows that it's not something you do project by project. This is, becomes a part of who you are as in your intellectual endeavors. It's great. Wonderful. All right. So for those of you who are interested in more conversation with Sarah, we have a couple of the conversations you'll find on our YouTube channel. And thank you very much, Sarah. We'll close out this portion now. Wonderful.